looking for a way out of Taiwan. Immigration experts say they've been inundated with inquiries since Nancy Pelosi's visit to the country. Reports emerged that the US is considering sanctions on China to deter it from any action on Taiwan. Xi Jinping begins his first overseas trip in 3 years. A meeting with Vladimir Putin is on the cards, but is their so-called no-limits relationship all that it seems? Plus,
I'm here at one of Asia's most important semiconductor exhibitions, where over 50,000 people have gathered to see the next generation of chips and chip-making technology.
A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Immigration specialists say they've been getting up to 5 times more calls from people looking to pack up and leave Taiwan for good. The interest spiked after US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited the country. As Eric Gao reports, most people say they want to leave because of security reasons.
U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan in early August grabbed international headlines, but it also triggered large-scale Chinese military exercises. It was the highest-level visit by a U.S. official in 25 years, made over the objections of Beijing, which saw it as a breach of its sovereignty claims over Taiwan. It also had a less obvious side effect: increased interest in Taiwan about immigrating to the United States.
Nancy Pelosi 访台以后，她走了那个礼拜，真的是很可怕，因为电话是真的是3倍5倍的。前2年的疫情是真的都是没人问，也没人打电话来，因为大家连旅行都不敢，更不会想到移民了。
Immigration workers say the uptick in interest is because of concerns about Taiwan's security.
我不想要当第2个乌克兰，好，我不想要当第2个香港。有钱有实力的人很可能就会选择移民，你等于是帮你买了一个第2个保单的概念。
Immigrating to the U.S. now could pay off in just a few years, with the option of getting a resident green card. The U.S. is the top choice, but there's also interest in regional neighbors like Singapore and Malaysia. Rick E. and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
The United States is mulling new sanctions against China, according to a report released by the news agency Reuters. Quoting sources familiar with the matter, it says the package is meant to deter Beijing from invading Taiwan. Washington is reportedly in talks with the EU to encourage Europe to take similar action. At the same time, Reuters reports that Taiwan's representative office in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday hosted some 60 lawmakers from Europe, Africa and Asia, seeking support for sanctions from their governments on China. The EU's chief diplomat Joseph Borrell has criticised recent Chinese live fire drills around Taiwan, saying visits here should not provoke military drills or ballistic missile launches. Borrell made the comments during a European Parliament debate on Chinese provocations toward Taiwan in the aftermath of Pelosi's visit to Taipei last month. Parliamentarians from 10 EU states and across the political spectrum took part in the debate, which broadly condemned heightened Chinese aggression and intimidation. European attitudes toward Taiwan have warmed in recent years, with several European delegations visiting Taiwan over the past year. But Borrell ruled out visiting Taiwan himself.
To tell the truth, I am not planning to go to Taiwan. And as far as I know, there is no travel for a scene at the highest political level of the European Union.
Chinese President Xi Jinping is on his first overseas visit since the pandemic began. He's travelling to Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, where he'll meet Russian President Vladimir Putin on the sidelines of a summit for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or SCO.
In the Uzbek capital Tashkent, Chinese President Xi Jinping looks out from newspapers' front pages. China's leader is in Central Asia and will soon travel to Uzbekistan on his first overseas trip since the pandemic began nearly 3 years ago. Xi arrives at a time when geopolitical lines have shifted in a world more polarized by the pandemic, tensions over Taiwan, and Russia's war in Ukraine. In Uzbekistan, Xi will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in person for the first time since Moscow invaded its neighbor.
If there is one thing that China and Russia are on the same page when it comes to the war in Ukraine, is that these two countries right now are trying to change global order.
With that as a goal, the setting of their meeting is significant. The summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or SCO, an organization which Moscow says shows an alternative to the world order led by the West. The SCO was founded in 2001 and has 8 member states, including China, Russia, India, and Pakistan. Its members account for roughly 40% of the world's population. China's foreign ministry emphasized that both the location and timing for Xi's first overseas trip in nearly 1,000 days are deliberate.
这次访问是中方在中国共产党20大前夕开展的一次最重要的元首外交活动，充分体现了中方对上海合作组织和中哈中乌关系的高度重视。
Through organizations like the SCO, Moscow and Beijing have sought to advance a non-Western world order, spearheaded by the two powers. But analysts say despite the two countries declaring a no-limits partnership earlier this year, imbalances remain.
China's been getting much stronger militarily, but certainly economically. I mean, it's many times more economically powerful than Russia. Coming out of the Ukraine war, I think we're going to see that Russia is much more a junior partner to China.
And that, analysts say, means when it comes to flashpoints like Taiwan, which China has threatened to take by force, the stated no-limits Sino-Russian relationship may have limits after all.
I don't think that Russia would be ready to go beyond its neutrality in those questions that are important only for China.
In the Uzbek press, Xi is quoted as saying that the SCO is designed to advance a more just world order. But the bloc's two most powerful leaders still seem to have different views on how to get there. Damon Lin and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
A former security chief of US social media giant Twitter has said the FBI told company executives about a Chinese spy on the payroll. As Rick Glauert reports, whistleblower Peter Zatko testimony in front of a Senate Judiciary Committee has flagged uncomfortably close ties between Beijing and one of the most important companies in the United States.
A former Twitter employee about to blow the whistle. Peter Zatko, the social media giant's former head of security, told a US Senate hearing that Twitter was informed by the FBI of at least one Chinese spy working at the company.
I'm here today because Twitter leadership is misleading the public, lawmakers, regulators, and even its own board of directors. What I discovered when I joined Twitter was that this enormously influential company was over a decade behind industry security standards.
It's not the first time Twitter's lax security has come under fire. In 2020, teenaged hackers seized controls of dozens of high-profile accounts. Zatko said Twitter executives seemed unconcerned about the possibility of a foreign agent on the company's payroll. Twitter has said their hiring process is independent of foreign influence. But any perceived Chinese sway is problematic, coming at a time of heightened tensions between Washington and Beijing. The two superpowers are at loggerheads over trade and other issues, including Taiwan, which China claims as its own and has upped threats to take by force. Zatko also mentioned a Reuters investigation that found China has become a major customer for the US company. Twitter banned political and state media advertising in 2019, but Chinese Communist Party offices promoting tourism and culture are a growing source of revenue.
While at Twitter, you raised concerns with their policy allowing Chinese advertisement. What was Twitter's response?
In a nutshell, it was We're already in bed. It would be problematic if we lost that revenue stream. So figure out a way to make people comfortable with it.
Twitter says the Senate hearing only confirmed that Zakhao's allegations are inconsistent and inaccurate. But at a time when Beijing's influence and aggression around the world is under scrutiny, close ties between China and one of the US's most important companies are raising a red flag. Chris Ma and Rick Lowett for TaiwanPlus.
President Tsai has travelled to the Army's Weapons Development Centre to inspect Taiwan-made armoured vehicles. The CM-34 is the latest model of Taiwan's Clouded Leopard armoured cars. Tsai says the vehicles are part of Taiwan's push to become more militarily self-sufficient as the country faces a growing threat from China.
云豹甲车从规划设计到量产，由军备局整合了 生产制造中心各厂、中科院以及民间产学各界的合力完成，这就是我们台湾国防自主能力的最佳的展现。拥有坚实的国防实力，台湾才能拥有真正的和平，而国防自主正是其中重要的关键。
SEMICON, one of Asia's largest semiconductor exhibitions, kicked off on Wednesday. This year, the heads of top chip makers like TSMC and Intel will showcase their newest technologies, which will be used in the next generation of smart devices and computers. Jaime Ocon is at the event.
This is SEMICON, one of the biggest semiconductor events in the world. Over 700 of the chip industry's leading companies have come to this Taipei trade show to share their newest, most innovative technologies. One of the themes this year is how chips are changing the car industry.
所以我想，这个车用晶片对台湾来说是一个很潜大的一个商机，也是台湾在继续作为跟国际大厂合作的一个非常好的一个项目。
Taiwan is recognized globally as a leader in semiconductor production. More than 90% of the world's most advanced chips are made here. That technological dependence on Taiwan is seen as one of the country's greatest strengths.
As you know, Taiwan have own capability to develop own chip and all technology. So it is very useful for Taiwan and other also, like Taiwan supply a lot of chip like Apple and other important industries. So many countries dependent on the Taiwan. So it's kind of good. It's kind of good sign for the Taiwan.
But having one nation producing all the world's most advanced chips also poses a threat to the global supply chain. Last month, a visit from U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan sparked 4 days of unprecedented military exercises from China. Many say the drills amounted to a simulated blockade of the island, something Beijing could attempt if it seeks to take over Taiwan forcefully, as it has threatened. China's rulers see Taiwan as part of its territory. If a real blockade were to happen, many imports and exports for countries around the world would be cut off. One of the key themes here at SEMICON is the use of chips for larger machines like cars, trains, and even fighter jets, technology that is expected to grow in demand. Now, many people have told me that while they'll still be looking to Taiwan for its leadership in the region, many will also be looking to diversify the supply chains in case of any fallout from cross-strait tensions. Patrick Chen and Jaime Ocon in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, Taiwan is promising to get the cruise industry back in business, but it's not going to be plain sailing. We'll explain why after the break.
What makes this island nation exceptionally punch way above its might? It's the fascinating human stories we heard, plus the greatest movies we saw. The enduring and painstaking past we learned, plus the beautiful people we met. The delightful cuisines we tasted, plus the coexistence of many cultures we embraced. The powerful, energizing technology we invented, plus the ancient masterpieces we preserved, the human rights we advanced, plus the motherland we called home. TaiwanPlus. We will continue to show you unheard, compelling stories that touch our hearts. Come with us as we embark on yet another unraveling journey to the world.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Taiwan's cruise industry is looking towards a post-pandemic revival. The government has set a goal of a full recovery by the end of next year. But industry experts say a lot will depend on how soon Taiwan reopens its borders. John Van Trieste has the story.
Taiwan's cruise ports are ready to reopen. That was the message at this cruise industry forum organized by the Transport Ministry. Officials say it won't be long before boatloads of passengers land on Taiwan's shores again.
今年亚洲地区跨国的邮轮航线也率先由新加坡开始起航，显示邮轮市场已经逐步的复苏。我们乐观的期待，在明年底可以恢复到疫情前的水准。
That means more than 600 ships calling at Taiwan ports each year, with more than 1 million passengers aboard. It would also mean Taiwan retakes its pre-pandemic place as Asia's second biggest cruise market. But for now, Taiwan's borders remain closed to tourists. And industry experts say once the country does reopen, the cruise industry won't bounce back overnight.
最重要就是开放公共河进来，因为邮轮的安排运作，它不是马上可以就绪的，所以可能在4个月、半年前就已经在规划了。
A gradual reopening, with limits placed on cruise ship capacity, is being proposed to keep COVID in check. But for now, cruise ships sit empty, waiting for the green light to bring in visitors again. Asnaya Zhou and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
A controversial landfill in northern Taiwan's Miaoli County is shutting down, ending a 20-year-long legal battle. The Pacific Ecology Company's permits for the Kunyu landfill expire on the 15th of September. A court ruled in July that the company failed to undertake a required environmental impact assessment. Locals have been fighting against the landfill since 1991. In July, clashes erupted at the site between protesters and Pacific Ecology employees. Activists are celebrating the permit expiry as a long-awaited victory.
一部分人就是说非常高兴嘛，毕竟纠缠他们20多年的那梦魇落幕嘛。接下来他们如果要跑的话，就需要跑环评。那但有一部分的人就是对政府比较不信任的话，就会觉得说，他们会不会来偷盗了？
Taiwan recorded over 49,000 new cases of COVID-19 on Wednesday, the most in a single day since the end of June. The country also recorded 37 deaths from the virus. The government's pandemic task force attributes the uptick in cases to the highly contagious Omicron subvariants BA4 and BA5. It also says the Mid-Autumn Festival holiday over the weekend made it easier for the virus to spread. Japan is easing its COVID-19 travel restrictions. Tokyo's representative office in Taiwan is now allowing people to apply for visas online instead of going to the office in person. E-visas are available for business, education, family visits and tourism, but tourists will still need to be certified by a Japanese travel agency first. Japan is expected to lift its arrival quota and resume its visa waiver program sometime in October. The Netflix smash hit Squid Game has become the first non-English drama to win Best Actor and Best Director at the Emmys. Viewers in South Korea say they hope the awards will help bring Korean entertainment to new heights. Stash Butler reports.
The star of Netflix's dystopian thriller becomes the first actor to win an Emmy for a non-English performance. It's been a dizzying ride to the top for the Korean drama, which centres around a group of TV show contestants forced to play deadly children's games for money. After it was released in September last year, the show racked up more than 1.6 billion hours of views in just its first month to become Netflix's most watched series. The show's creator and director, Hwang Dong-hyuk, also won in his category.
And I truly hope Squid Game won't be the last non-English series to be here at the Emmys. And I also hope this won't be my last Emmy either.
Back in South Korea, fans of the series also hope it's the start of an even bigger boom in Korean culture overseas.
K-pop 같은 게 많이 유행하고 있는데 이제 드라마 같은 것도 저희 한국의 드라마가 많이 알려져서 좋고 또 아시아 최초로 들었거든요. 굉장히 자부심도 있고 이 한국의 많은 것들이 계속 퍼져 나갔으면 좋겠습니다.
이게 상까지 타니까 너무 대한민국 한 사람으로서 너무 자랑스럽고 우리나라가 더 잘할 수 있겠다라는 자신감도 있을 것 같고요. 우리의 눈이 틀리지 않았다 뭐 이런 생각도 했었던 순간이라 너무 좋았습니다.
Netflix has not set a release date for Squid Game's second season. But when the show does return, its creators will hope it can bring their work and Korean culture more generally to millions more viewers around the globe. Karma Xu and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
A Taiwanese student has won the opening round of the 2022 WorldSkills Competition. The 12-week event in Switzerland challenges competitors to test their technological abilities. Bing Wang reports.
The gold medal goes to Fengyu Lei, Chinese Taipei.
Taiwanese student Lei Fengyue has taken the gold medal in the first event of the 2022 WorldSkills Competition. Held in the Swiss capital of Bern, the 23-year-old beat 5 other international contestants to win the prototype modeling event. That's an engineering contest where a prototype is built, tested, and reworked until a final product is completed. While Lei has some experience in national contests in Taiwan, he managed to beat much more experienced international competitors.
很开心的，就是没有想到可以拿到那么好的名次，因为他们都是就是一些公司的员工嘛，就是 Toyota 跟郑重。虽然我们是竞争对手，可是我们在一些比赛下，我们都会互相了解，他们觉得我们是很好的朋友。
Lei says his childhood love of building Gundam figures and model tanks led him to pursue a career in engineering and design. Both President Tsai Ing-wen and Vice President William Lai congratulated Lei on his grand prize. The WorldSkills Challenge will have 62 events over a 12-week period. 57 people from Taiwan are set to take part in various categories, and they hope to bring more medals home with them. Klein Wang and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's wildlife is generally found far away from its cities, but one species of raptor has made its home in the heart of the capital. TaiwanPlus's series Formosa Forevermore explores the life of the crested goshawk.
It is a predatory bird most adapted to Taiwan's urban life, the crested goshawk. Not just in the sense of passing by or taking a quick tour, but rather being born, growing up, and dying from age in the city. This is in the heart of Taipei. Atop the branches of a roadside tree, there is a nest of crested goshawks. The bird that's just returned is the mother, while the one standing in front of the lens is the chick. We don't know what food the mother brought home today, but usually, crested goshawks living in Taipei's parks feed on Eurasian tree sparrows, pigeons and doves, brown rats, or Palace's squirrels. This chick is actually old enough to get ready for fledging. Therefore, the mother purposefully brings the food away from the nest in order to tempt the chick to fly away from the nesting tree. However, for the chick, the true survival challenge begins after it leaves the nest, with the first challenge being hunting skills, as it is not an innate skill. It is a learned skill, so even holding down praise properly requires practice. Today, the prize is a small swin-hose lizard. Though it is small, the animal is abundant in urban parks and makes for good practice. The crested goshawk living in cities have many sources of food. While almost all other birds see it as a natural enemy, it barely has any enemies of its own, aside from glass windows and cars that may threaten the bird when it accidentally crashes. It seems this chick has improved its hunting skills a lot. Today it snatched an oriental turtle dove and can easily feed itself well. Uh-oh, the oriental turtle dove ends up flying away. Apparently, it is not enough to practice only hunting. It must also learn to focus. That way, soon it will become like its parents and own the skies of Taiwan's cities.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Finally, we leave you with images of this turtle pulling off a quick escape from a bear at the Taipei Zoo. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.